This conference will now be recorded.
No spring in backend.
Yeah, good morning, Chaitanya. Could you enable my camera, please? Chaitanya?
Yeah, we are doing it. Less than a minute.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Meenakshi ma'am, can you please try it once? Hello. Meenakshi ma'am, you can unmute your mic and start.
Good morning and welcome to day 2 of our FDP. It was heartening to see the stupendous response in the form of positive comments and appreciation from participants on day 1 of the FDP. Though it was regretful that we were not able to accommodate All the people who registered as our platform was not able to support the large numbers. But we have learned from this experience and will ensure that we work on the technical aspects of conducting webinars and find a feasible solution to include all the 1,500 plus registrations that we got this time round. Professional development is necessary and needs to be ongoing. A one-time training will not be effective in developing the level of confidence necessary or the level of knowledge or skills needed for long-term success. Teachers need ongoing coaching and continuous support when learning to use new technological tools and teaching strategies. Effective teaching involves pupils in their learning, uses dialogic interactions, provides feedback for improvement, and develops independent learning. The proverb goes, 1,000 teachers, 1,000 methods. As techniques, to a large extent, are the personal art and style of the teacher in carrying out the procedure of teaching. This program, we believe, will help teachers to create a virtual extension of their classroom that works to support and improve their instructional goals and provide a way to enrich the out-of-classroom experience of their students. I'd like to now introduce the first speaker for day 2. And it is a pleasure to introduce a colleague and friend, actually, Dr. Joel Saripalli. Dr. Joel Saripalli hails from Hyderabad and is a linguistic expert, having worked as a director for various foreign organizations, both American and Canadian. He has also worked as an associate professor for various technological colleges and was the deputy head of the Department of Madanapalli Institute of Technology and Science, as well as chief placement officer. He grew up in the state of Texas in the USA since 1977 and procured his education, especially his collegiate, from reputed universities in the USA. He has a bachelor's in mass communications from Dallas, a master's in communications, and a PhD in linguistics, both from Louisiana. He also possesses a level 3 TEFL TESOL certification from Intersol Worldwide, UK. His qualifications and contributions to the field of education and the upliftment of students has been recognized and hailed by professionals both far and wide. Dr. Saripalli has been a Board of Studies member for the Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, Hyderabad, since 2014. He has contributed to several major publications by both the Cambridge University and Oxford University. He has been certified IELTS examiner for the British Council and has trained hundreds of students and working professionals, including scientists for central government institutions.
Please unmute Meenakshi. Meenakshi, please unmute and talk.
Yeah. Dr. Saripalli has been a Board of Studies member for the Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, Hyderabad, since 2014. He has contributed to several major publications by both the Cambridge University and Oxford University. He has been a certified IELTS examiner for the British Council and has trained hundreds of students and working professionals, including scientists for central government institutions with respect to English language competency. He has trained scores of staff and members of faculty in several institutions and colleges and is frequently called upon by the Cambridge University Press in order to conduct teacher trainings and by other reputed institutions with regards to FDPs and workshops. A very warm welcome to Dr. Joel Saripalli. Over to you, Joel.
Good morning, Dr. Meenakshi.
Good morning.
Nice to hear your voice.
Good morning, Joel.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Good morning, Joel, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Chaitanya. Good to hear your voices. Good morning to everyone. I presume everybody's on mute, but I hope you can unmute yourself in a bit. So
Good morning,
it's
sir.
a pleasure. Yeah, good morning. It's a pleasure and an honor to be your FTP.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, your FTP will be or is being focused on the topic of innovative techniques for effective teaching online and offline. I found the topic to be quite general and ambiguous, and so it could be quite exhaustive. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, there's so much to it, it's very hard to fit everything into a couple of days or even a couple of hours. So my topic, though it may sound a little general, but I think it is very important and one that needs to be addressed. So before I begin my session, I would like to begin with a couple of questions. So if you guys would like to give us your 2 cents, if you will, we will discuss a few questions. Okay, just let me get my PPT up and running. All right, so all of you can unmute yourselves and we'll try to answer a few questions or contemplate them. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All righty. So a few
Yes,
questions
sir.
for us to contemplate this morning before we begin. Quite general, actually, but insightful, I presume. The first one is, in general, I would like your opinion on how different is our world to what we knew about the world about 25 years ago. Now, I presume this question is being asked to people who are older than 25 years. Hello?
Yeah, now it's completely online.
Can you please unmute, sir? Joel, sir. Joel, sir, you can unmute
Yeah.
your.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can,
Can
sir.
you?
Please.
Okay. So I'd like some perspectives on this first question. So how different is our world to what it was around 25 years ago? Like I said, I presume everybody on this FTP is above 25 years. Any answers? Any thoughts on this question?
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
The world is now highly digitalized, hectic, and at the same time insecure.
Okay, all right, good answers.
Hello.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Rapid growth
Go
of
ahead.
technology.
Please tell us your name and give us your perspective on
Sir,
this.
I'm Pawan Kumar from SRK Engineering College. There is a
Okay.
rapid growth in technology, and education has there are a lot of technological improvements. So we are employing
Yeah,
technology for education. Before 25 years, it's not that much of available.
absolutely. Very good. Very good. Anybody else?
Thank you, sir.
Apart from technology
Yeah,
and
can I speak?
science, yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
name
go
is
ahead.
Ravindra Kumar. I'm from Jalandhar City, Punjab. Before 25 years, I think there were joint families. There were love, compassion, coordination, collaboration among the families. But nowadays, we have just become materialistic. We are chasing the money, we are chasing the wealth, and we have forgotten the values of humanity, and we don't even contemplate on the
Okay.
thoughts. So
Right.
this is my
Thank you, guys.
perception.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your thoughts. Let me move on to the
Can I
second question.
speak once?
I am
Can I
Vasanta.
give you
Can
an
I please
answer?
speak?
Yeah, we'll take one more answer, okay? Because I need to
Yeah.
move on.
This is
Vasanta
Chandra
here. Can
Rao,
I-
sir. Can I speak?
Yes, please.
The world today is unnecessarily competitive, and COVID-19 has put us on the reverse gear. We hope it
Oh,
will
boy.
do us some
Yeah.
good for some more time. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
Sir, can I just pitch in, please? I'm Vasanta here.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
I'm Vasanta from Flytech Aviation Academy.
Yes.
I think the one major difference I see today is that 25 years back, there were geographical boundaries in the sense that the internet and the web had developed. So that dropped the geographical boundaries, I think, across the world.
Right. Thank you so much. Let's move on to the second question. PowerPoint is stuck. So the second question, do you guys think we've reached a climax, or are there any further changes that are to be expected? Has the world changed to the maximum level, or will there be more changes?
No, sir. No, sir. So many changes will take place.
Okay, there's still much more change to occur.
For sure. Only last 3 months we have been facing.
Yeah, absolutely. Unexpected changes and some
Definitely
expected changes.
And we will compare with the past, as you said in the first question, 25 years. So
Yeah.
like that only go on, but with many changes. There are no changes. Changes are eternal.
Right. Right. Let's move on to the third question. And do you think change is good? Yeah, this is a touchy question. I know that.
Yeah, the
But
change
change
Can I
is
talk?
inevitable.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Ravi Balan from Chennai.
Okay, sir.
Really, the change is good for the people who are ready to cope up with the modern technology, but not for the
Very
people who belong to the old school of thought.
good. Excellent answer. Okay, anybody else? Is change good?
So good or bad, change is the only constant and we should accept that.
True. It's inevitable. Absolutely. Change is inevitable, and we've
So
got to somehow accommodate.
We have to adapt to it. Yeah.
Yeah, we have
change
to
is the
accommodate.
law of life.
Yep,
It must
yep.
be.
Right. And this is another touchy question. Do you think the world has changed for good? Anybody?
Yes, of course.
It depends upon, sir. It depends upon
Absolutely,
our
sir.
perception, sir.
Right. Because when we read the newspapers, it sounds like the world is a
It
horrible
hasn't
place.
changed exactly.
Yeah.
It's based on
Yeah,
our
excuse
perspective.
me, let me talk. Can I, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I think whether it's for good or bad, but I think this change has brought in a lot many opportunities into all the lives. That is what I
Absolutely.
feel.
Yeah. Though there's a lot of evil and wicked people in this world, which we must acknowledge, we must, at the end of the day, realize that the world has progressed. We have evolved, if you will. So my personal opinion is the change has been good, both scientifically, in other ways as well. The world has become a better place, actually, uh, especially through globalization. That's my personal perspective, of course. You can take it or leave it. But yeah, change, I think the world has changed for the better. We're gone are the days of slavery. I mean, if you go back hundreds and thousands of years, though we call those days as the good old days, which is a common phrase we use all the time, the good old days did have some complications. And I don't think we're completely aware of the implications of those bygone days. One final question. Has the grasping capability of our students changed? Let's just focus on the students a little bit. What would you say? About 25 years ago, did students have the same capacity as students do today?
No, absolutely no.
Okay. Anybody else?
In my
So
opinion,
Ravi Balan
it
from
has
Chennai.
changed.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
yes. Go ahead.
This
Yes,
is
really.
this is TVS Lakshmi from Usmania University. The
Hello, ma'am.
grasping capacity of the students has changed. I mean, has modulated to remembering through the mobiles or the computers. They were remembering through that, but they are not able to put it in their mind forever. That's
Yeah,
what
they
I
become
feel.
more. Yeah, they become more kinesthetic.
Dependent on the gadgets, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts? Anybody else? All right. So as we
Sir,
move further, yeah.
so more of rote memorizing and all. In olden days, subject related teaching. That's the reason why nowadays what is happening, entire grasping power is related to rote memorizing, sir, not based on understanding of subjects.
But do you think the knowledge that they need to acquire has also increased? Could that
Yes,
be
sir,
one of the
knowledge
reasons?
is increased. Yes, sir, knowledge is increased, no doubt in it.
And
But
so
the way the standards are laid, no, they're keeping pressure in the minds of the students. In olden days, they are some in a playway method. They have learned everything.
True.
Now it
There's
became a
so
competitive
much
goal.
to, yeah,
Yes, sir.
they have so much to cram,
Yes,
so
sir.
much knowledge. Yeah. They're expecting
Yes.
kids at the primary level to become Einsteins.
Yes,
So
sir.
yeah,
More competitive,
there's
sir.
a lot.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Hello,
ma'am.
sir. In
Yes,
olden
yes.
days, students used to spend their time to memorize the information, but in present generation, students they are spending time to analyze. I mean, analytical thinking they have developed
Yes,
because they need
absolutely.
not memorize because
Yeah.
everything is online. So this is
Bloom's
what I
taxonomy.
observed.
Bloom's taxonomy
Yes,
has really given us a model.
applicable. Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for your perspective. Let's move on.
Thank you.
Yeah. So bearing these things in mind, we'll come to my main topic today, which is critical elements to articulate teaching. So the one thing that never changes, can you name anything that doesn't change, regardless
Question?
of times? Yeah. Yeah, you can give me your perspective. What do you think doesn't change? We see so much change going on, and we talked about change. Are there any things, or is there anything that doesn't change?
The relation between student and
Teacher, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now we're coming to academics.
Right.
Right.
Systems cannot provide a real teacher, original teacher.
Right. So the one thing that I want to focus on, and I want to mention that never changes, regardless of the times, the situations, or the environments, is the aspect of teachers being articulate. I hope you understand what I mean by that. The demand of teachers being articulate is never changing, whether it be 25 years ago, 100 years ago, uh, times and environments, irrespective, teachers have a need to be articulate. So this FDP, which is in regards to innovative technologies, whether it be offline or online, it doesn't matter, online, offline. Again, as I mentioned, articulation is a key to our success. So what does it mean to be articulate? Let's just quickly have a look at that. The definition of of the word articulate, of course, we're all aware of it. And usually we think that articulation has to do with fluency or coherence. But if you would pay attention to the third definition that's on your screen, you will notice to form a kind of joint or connection. This is something that we need to look at. Articulation is a well-connected system. It's a conjoined network, and it applies individually and as a team or department. Chaitanya, could you mute the rest of the mics, or do I have to do it?
I do it right away.
Okay.
Can you
Just
please
keep me unmuted.
enable your video, sir? Everyone is asking to see you online.
Oh, my video. Oh, they want to see me.
I muted you also. You can unmute yourself, sir.
Right. What a horrible request.
Sir.
Okay. So you can see me, but I can't see you. All right. So I want to focus on that part to form a kind of joint or connection. So whether it be individually or as a department or team, staying well connected is part of being articulate, or the definition. So articulate, to be articulate is a science and an art. It's something that doesn't come firsthand, or it doesn't come naturally. It's not inherent. It is something that we need to internalize, and those critical elements, as we internalize them, they naturally externalize themselves. And the ultimate point is for us to externalize what is internal, because we want to transfer our knowledge to our students. That's the profession that we're in, knowledge transfer. So 3 questions that we'll quickly try to answer here in my session. So how can we become articulate? How important is it? And do you think it can be achieved? These are the things that I would like to mainly focus upon. Now, the first thing we need to understand is that to become articulate, let me see, my PowerPoint is again stuck. So to become articulate, the first thing we need is learning. Of course, as I mentioned, my topic may seem a little too basic, but is it important to go back to basics? Of course. Without basics, we don't move anywhere. Okay. So a teacher must be a learner. It is redundant and superfluous for us to expect our students to learn when we ourselves show no inclination to learning. One of my life's main dictum has been that the best teacher is a learner. So I wonder how many of us really understand what I mean by that. We can't teach unless we learn. I say that regretfully because uh, from experience, let me just give you my experience. I've had so many teachers and faculty members approach me to, even to the extent of composing their PhDs. Of course, a practice which I do not entertain. But you understand what I'm saying. Most cases as such, the ones that I mentioned, usually there is no learning taking place. They just want the piece of paper that qualifies them for something better. So learning is an important aspect of being a teacher. And unless we learn, we cannot internalize what we are expected to externalize. So let me ask you a question. Is there anything we must learn? Are there things we must learn? Rather, what kind of knowledge is expected from language teachers? Because sometimes our profession, I see, is treated as if it's secondary. These days, it's all about STEM, STEM. That's great. That's wonderful. That's what the world is running on, technology and other important skills, computer related. However, language skill can never be segregated. It cannot never be demeaned, if you will. We are not a secondary department, though technological colleges treat us as secondary. But at the same time, in my experience, I've seen that when time comes, it's always the English department that's called upon to fill in the gaps. So we are in demand, whether we like it or not. We are in demand. Language is an intricate part of human existence. I think the first invention of human beings was language, even before even inventing a wheel and things of that nature. So language has always been and will always be a constant. All right. So what kind of things do you think we should learn? Are there any critical areas, critical elements, as we are mentioning? We must become proficient in certain areas, whether it be topics like geography, history, cultures, current affairs, global knowledge. Many times I have noticed that language teachers lack in these areas. We must have a global knowledge, general knowledge of why.
So can you please unmute, sir? There are people who. Joel, sir, please unmute and continue, sir.
Fine, thank you. So there are areas which are beyond our English department or beyond our profession that we must become proficient in, because these areas are what tell our students whether we're articulate and the capacity that we aim to present to them. So learning, as I mentioned, is the key that all of us must focus on, though it is something that we may acknowledge, but oftentimes we don't pursue it. Let's look at some of the great men who've what they've said about learning. PowerPoint keeps getting stuck. You've all heard of Stephen Covey, right? Stephen Covey once mentioned that the key to success is a dedication to lifelong learning. And how true that is. Of course, this comes from his famous book, The 7 Habits of Successful People. Every one of us wants to have success, but I want us to have success in what we do more than what we earn. Money is secondary. This is a question that requires much reflection on our part. the key to success. These days, if you notice, everybody has ratings, 5-star ratings. If you get good ratings, you get better business. That's the way the world is running. But if we were to give our students a feedback form and ask them to rate our capacity, I wonder what they would say. So I want to encourage all of the audience to focus on lifelong learning. Our famous Mahatma, in whose honor your college is named, I presume, he said something very worthwhile. Live as if you were to die tomorrow, and learn as if you were to live forever. I wonder what we think about that. Do we really apply that? Do we have the passion to learn? And one of the greatest, before I go on to other things, one of the greatest men in history, Michelangelo, at the age of 87, he said, "I'm still learning." So I wonder how many of us can say the same. There is never an end to learning. For us to become articulate, the critical element to articulate teaching, the first one is learning. Let's move on to the next one. Listening. Oh boy, there's so much we can say on this. I'm sure you would agree. Learning comes from listening. We teach English language to our students, and we often emphasize the 4 skills, LSRW. But have we ever noticed that of these 4 skills, the one that's the most important is the one that is taught the least, if ever? Most people don't know, they've never been coached on how to listen. But we must teach our students and also internalize in ourselves that there is a great difference between hearing and listening. What is hearing? And what is listening? What's the difference? You can hear the birds singing. You can hear it. But to understand what each sound of their chirping means, you need to listen. There's a lot of people, some people have a hobby of bird watching, and they can tell you what kind of a chirp indicates what mood of the bird. So hearing the bird sing is beautiful, but listening to them helps us understand what the chirps mean and what they're communicating. So listening and hearing, there's a major difference there. Hearing is usually accidental, and listening is deliberate. It happens because we intend to listen. Hearing is involuntary, and listening is voluntary. Hearing is unintentional, listening is intentional. Hearing is effortless, but to listen takes effort. And finally, hearing is passive, but listening is very much active. We listen because we want to. So here is a very big area of lack when it comes to the critical elements of articulate teaching. As we know, there was a great philosopher by name Epictetus in the Greek world. He once mentioned that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak. I'm sure those of you who are mothers would acknowledge the fact that babies in the womb do listen. Babies in the womb can recognize their parents' voice. They can even sense the movements. So the outside world is very much in touch with the baby in the womb. So from the womb to the tomb, we must understand that listening is a critical part. It doesn't apply only to students. I believe it applies more to teachers. Remember what Plato said. Plato said, wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something. So which one are we? I hope we are wise men, that we're becoming more articulate in our profession and in our calling. So let's engage in building up the skill of listening. In the business world, they usually say location, location, location. But in the language world, we must understand that it's listen, listen, listen. We expect our students to listen, but it's we also. Next time when you think about listening, I want you to first listen to yourself. Oftentimes we speak without listening to ourselves. We must listen to ourselves so that we can understand what's coming out of our mouth for our students to be more connected. Thirdly, I would like us to consider the word living. People usually share memes these days. It's become quite commonplace, and some of them are very catchy. One of the memes that really impressed me is this one. It says, just a second, my computer keeps getting stuck. Yeah, it says, if your life were a book, what would its title be? Of course, there are other versions of this. People have said, if your life was a movie, what would its title be? But regardless, the point is very poignant. It's very sharp. We must acknowledge, what do people think about our life? Because if we are in the teaching profession by chance, it is unfortunate. I hope we're in the teaching business or teaching field, especially language teachers. I hope we're in this because we feel that it's a calling and that we have a passion for it. You know, our students can clearly see through our hypocrisy. Students are quite smart, as we were mentioning earlier in the question session. So when it comes to teaching, we should have a calling in our life that we take this up as a calling and not just a mere job. It's a profession. Professions are callings, and we need to honor our calling. So ultimately, all that we do bears out upon our existence. It's not just a mere wearing a mask or sanitizing our hands or avoiding large crowds. It has more to do with employability, which is something that was mentioned 25 years ago. There wasn't as much need for employability. These days, it's become a must. We are training our students to become employable. We want them to become industry ready. We're looking for placements. So employability requires or demands that we have articulate skills. One famous man, Jay Samit, he mentioned that lifelong learning is no longer a luxury, but it's a necessity for employment. There was a time when learning was a luxury. People could take their time and sit at home and read books. This is no more the case. Now it's become a must. So lifelong learning is something that is a critical element to articulate teaching. And I think my time is almost gone. Let me finish off with one more point.
Open the Q&A window. So this is actually my class which I've designed. I'll show you how does it look also. So many friends just take a minute to see what I've done. These are a few things that I had.
I'm sorry. Hello? Sorry? Is someone asking a question? Okay. So the last point that I want to mention is language. At the outset, we tossed around a few questions. So let's talk about a couple more questions. So when we spoke about change, do we see a change in language, especially the English language? And I'm sure all of you would concur that English is changing and has changed. And it has affected our teaching drastically. Because many times we use archaic terms, we use pronunciations which are not to be. We do so many things with language which show that we are not really articulate in the language that we want to teach. Some of the challenges that we face when it comes to language is the constant change, new words, foreign words being added to the language, pronunciation differences, spelling changes, American English, British English. We've got English for academic purposes. We've got English for occupational purposes. We've got English for business purpose. so many various, if you wish, Englishes. I hate to use the word, but there are different forms of English. So in order to keep up with all these, it is really a challenge. But that doesn't mean that we are not supposed to. Have you guys been in touch with the news lately? There are protests going on in America about racism. So a couple of days ago, one young lady, she wrote to Merriam-Webster editors and told them to redefine the word racism. So what we knew as racism in the past is now, and the editors have acknowledged that they would redefine the term. Racism has taken on a new meaning these days, and I encourage you to go on the web and investigate the changes that are taking place in that one word. But that's just one instance that I'm giving you. Let me give you the link for that. Sorry. So the word racism, you can find it on this link. You will see that in the coming days, dictionaries will redefine the word racism. This has happened in so many other cases. Let's take the word. I know currently the word bastard has a very bad connotation. But in the past, when English was in its inception, the word had a totally different meaning. And I can go on list after list. The aspect of learning how English is changing over a period of time is known as diachronic analysis by linguists. So we who perform diachronic analysis often notice the changes that are taking place. So to be articulate, one of the critical elements in our profession is that we need to keep up with the trends in the language that we're teaching. Okay, so employability, as we mentioned earlier. Have you noticed most job opportunities abroad, if you were to work, if you were to desire to work in Canada or America or the UK or Dubai or Hong Kong or even China or Australia, any place abroad, usually there's a phrase in the recruitment. The phrase is, the teacher must possess a native level fluency. This is a major stumbling block for Indian teachers because we don't possess native level fluency. So, but this has become a requirement. If you want a job abroad, they require that you possess a native level fluency in the language of English, not just grammatical knowledge, not just the knowledge of the fundamentals of English, but the current trends that are going on in English. So language is one very critical element to articulate teaching. So let's answer the other question. How important is it? Critical elements of to articulate teaching, as I mentioned, are four. Of course, it can be an exhaustive list. So it begins with learning. It has a lot to do with listening. It bears on our living. It's an existential question. And ultimately, the trends in language and how it's changing. So with these four L's, we are to capitalize on these four L's so that we can speak or let the results speak for themselves. So these are important. And can it be achieved? Do you think these can be achieved? We tell our students that if they came up to you and asked you if in reality proficiency in English was possible. Well, I'll tell you, as an IELTS examiner and English language trainer, I have seen many students achieve incredible results. They surprised me with the capacity of language that they gained in just a short term. And all of this because they've taken it to be a critical element. And as teachers, I think we must lead from the front. We need to show our students that we put these four L's into practice. And so they're also, they can find success in pursuing their quest of English. So I thank you for your attention. And I think we've got a few minutes for you, any questions or if you need any further clarifications. I'll open up the session to my participants so you can ask me any questions, or if you have any other thoughts that you would like to add onto this, you can unmute yourself and share your insights. Anybody? Chaitanya, are you controlling the mutes or is it individual?
Yeah, yes, sir. I'm controlling the mute. I request participants to keep their questions on the chat box.
Okay, on the chat box.
Because unmuting all will create a lot of problems.
Yeah, pandemonium.
Participants understand it.
Yeah, a lot of havoc.
So type your questions here. I'll be able to get them answered from the resource person.
Yeah. Shall we now open the session to questions? But
Yeah.
before that, I would like to quickly, give a summary of our speaker and thank him. The talk was well organized.
Thank you, Meenakshi.
And presented clearly. Yeah, I like the fact that our speaker tried to get the participants involved by making it a discussion. Dr. Saripalli started with a thought-provoking question, which made us all think about how the world has changed, and and we got to hear so many perspectives and opinions from our participants. How things are difficult before they are easy, and I think change is what keeps us alive, and always it's a mixed baggage.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right.
Good and bad. He started with the importance of language and of language teachers, and it was interesting to hear of language being the first invention. He opened a lot of eyes and ears to new learnings on listening, lifelong learning, living, racism. It was a very useful and insightful talk, Joel. Thank you so much. Now we can take questions, if any, from the participants.
Native like fluency. So that's one aspect. Kavita Rathod wants to know more about it. Could you please answer this?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, native like fluency.
Yeah, native level fluency. This
Yeah,
has become a very critical aspect to getting employment abroad. I say that more in respect of, because a lot of teachers these days would like to ultimately immigrate somewhere and, have some foreign teaching experience. It looks good on the resume as well, and it gives you much more value as a candidate for recruitment. So native level fluency is having not only the knowledge of English, but the capacity to be proficient and articulate in the language as if you were an American or a Brit or an Australian or a New Zealander. So countries whose language is English, their mother tongue is English, English language teachers are expected to have the same level of competency in the language. So that's what we mean. I hope I answered your question. Chaitanya, have I answered the question? Has there been an acknowledgement? Okay.
Yes, sir. I'll go with the second question.
Okay.
Just a moment, sir. The role of IT in ELT in a nutshell, please, in the present scenario. From
the role of IT?
The role of IT in ELT in a nutshell, please.
Okay. Oh boy, that's an expansive subject. But I think IT and ELT go hand in hand more and more because the technology that's being implemented, and also I think some of you use even in your labs some of this technology. And so English language learning through technology has made it much more accessible. So it's an aspect of having it at the fingertips. Whenever a person needs to learn any aspect of English, IT plays a major role in facilitating that. Okay, and how it does and all that, of course, that's a different session altogether.
Yeah. Can I ask you one more question, sir?
Okay.
Being non-native speakers of English, can we get the style of speaking as natives from Vijaya Rekha?
Well, I don't mean to influence you to have a false image of being a native speaker, but it should be something that's internalized and manifests itself externally, as I mentioned in my talk. So becoming a native level speaker, of course, we can't, because we're born in India, our mother tongue is different, and the way we've learned language is totally different. But I do believe that if we pay attention and give enough commitment toward changing our style of English, it can be done. So I hope I can encourage you with that. Thankfully, these days you have YouTube, where you can go and you've got so much access to native level speakers who are teaching English. Listen to them, take notes from them, and try to apply them in your life. And I'm sure over a period of time, depending on your enthusiasm, the results will show for themselves.
Yeah, thank you, sir. There's another question from Parasuramku, another participant. He mentioned, how is the career for Indian English teacher in foreign countries?
Like I mentioned, especially, oh my goodness, some noise.
Let me unmute quickly, sir.
That is Dr. Meenakshi's mic.
Okay. Currently, the scenario outside doesn't look too good. Currently, I'm talking about as of June 13th, 2020. There's not much recruitment going on anyway right now. In fact, they're laying off teachers. The first kind of teachers that they lay off is non-native teachers, which are people who don't belong to that country. So getting a job these days has become very hard. But if you really passionately wanted to pursue a career abroad, they would require that you have a native level fluency. They would require that you have a TEFL or a TESOL, or even maybe a Delta or a CELTA. These are requirements for getting employment abroad.
Yeah, thank you, sir. One more. Tips to reach native level language skills from Farah.
Okay, I just mentioned it. YouTube is a great help. Go to YouTube, listen to all the English you can, take notes, apply them in your lives. Has to do with pronunciation. It's not a matter of accent. I think our Indian people are somehow confused about accent. It's not a matter of accent. The terminology is different. The difference between our way of English and the way native speakers speak English, the terminology is different. And let me just give you a quick example. Do we have enough time, Chaitanya?
Yeah, please.
Okay. In India, I've heard many people use the word catch, C-A-T-C-H, totally in an unacceptable way. For example, one lady standing in a bus stop, she asked me to catch her baby while she was boarding the bus because she had some bags in her hand. So how can I catch the baby? People say, please catch my book. The word catch doesn't apply in those situations. The word is hold. Can you hold the baby while I get on the bus? Can you hold my books while I, have a drink of water? So the word should be hold, but oftentimes we confuse it with the word catch. And I presume that's because our native languages have only one word. In Hindi, it might be pakado or something. But catch is when you throw something. Hold is some when you're given something. So in even simple things like that, the terminology that we use often is not consistent with that of native level speakers. So there's much to be said on that subject, but native level speaking is not a matter of accent. It's a matter of terminology, the expressions and idioms that they use. So that's the key. Okay.
Last one or two questions with this week closer.
Yeah. Okay.
How can the students acquire neutral accent when teachers themselves use their regional accent? Any suggestions?
Thank you very much.
From Surya?
Well, the teacher needs to work on that. Was the crux of my session.
Talk.
That we as teachers need to learn, need to listen, need to live, and then ultimately teach the language in the most articulate way possible. So it's a joint system, recapping what I've said all along. So I hope as teachers you will work on those things, and it will rub off on your students, believe me. Ultimately, it will rub off on your students. So it starts with you. It starts with you. Okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you all very much
One
for
more, yeah.
having me. Okay, sorry, you have one more question. Go ahead.
Online teaching, I mean, there's it's not a question, but it's a kind of a statement. Shall I read it for you, sir?
Yes, go ahead.
From Geeta Sri Mukherjee, Dr. Geeta Sri Mukherjee. Online teaching is a blessing. However, can we undermine the threat of unemployment of teachers, as one teacher can address many students at a time? Do you think there can be a shrink when one teacher can suffice the need instead of 2 or 3?
As far as jobs is concerned, of course, there's a crunch, definitely. But I'm hoping this situation will change and we'll get back into the classroom. I believe, personally, classroom learning is more effective than online because there's more of a control on the classroom, there's a management, there's a more of a personal interaction that takes place. So my personal opinion is that online for now, because of the situation, yeah, we can make do with it. But classroom teaching would be more preferred in my perspective. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for
Thank
joining and clarifying a lot of queries of participants. The great sense of patience and understanding.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you very much, Dr.
Meenakshi,
Joel. Yeah,
hope to
thank
see
you
you
so
soon.
much for accepting our invitation. Yeah, hopefully. Thank you so much. Let us now move right on to the next speaker for today. Our next speaker is Dr. Krishna Chaitanya. Dr. Krishna Chaitanya is... Are you putting the cam on for me, Chaitanya? Are you enabling the camera, Chaitanya?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is enabled.
Okay. So our next speaker, Dr. Krishna Chaitanya, is a assistant professor of English in the department of Mathematics and Humanities in Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Technology, Hyderabad. He has an MPhil in ELT and a PGCTE and a DTE from the Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, and a PhD in ELT from Osmania University, Hyderabad. He has about 15 years of teaching experience in India and the Gulf region. He has conducted workshops and training programs for teachers and students in India and Saudi Arabia. He has presented and published papers in the field of English for specific purposes, continuous professional development of teachers, collaborative action research, and flipped classroom pedagogy. But what makes him a great teacher is his friendliness and his approachability, his strong work ethic, his superior listening skills. In my long association of close to 14 years with Chaitanya, I have seen how caring he is with his students. Because it's not enough just to love your subject. I believe great teachers also share a love of students. Caring about students is what inspires teachers to reach out, to do better, to learn, to refine and improve. I welcome just one such teacher, Dr. Krishna Chaitanya. Over to you, Chaitanya.
Thank you very much, Dr. Meenakshi, for your kind words and introducing me to the FDP. Teaching in the flipped mastery model is tiring, and our minds have to constantly switch between one topic and the next, and from one activity to another. Flipping the classroom is more about a mindset, redirecting attention away from the teacher and putting attention on the learner and the learning. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to share screen and share space in this knowledge sharing forum. For the last 2 days, we have had a lot of intellectual deliberations on a variety of topics on how teaching can be effectively done using technological tools. The first session we had how English should be spoken and what are some of the Indianisms that we commonly come across. A wonderful session from the participants. The second session focused on Web 2.0, tools for teaching, not just in English, but other subjects as well. And the last subject we have just now on C80, critical elements of teaching. And my topic will be on flipped classroom pedagogy. I'll be sharing my screen right away. Give me a minute. Can you please unmute? Yeah, is it audible? I'd like to check before proceeding with the talk. Yes. Yeah, thank you very much.
It is audible, sir.
Yeah.
Audible,
Just
sir.
a minute. Just a minute. I just begin in 30 seconds time. I want this to be. It will not be visible. This you can block my communication. Hide it. Yeah, we begin now. The topic for my today's session will be flipped classroom technology, an effective technique in teaching online and offline. Yeah, flipped learning 3.0. How many of you practice flipped learning in your classrooms? Do you practice flipped learning or flipped tools? You can type it in the chat box. Yeah, thank you. A flipped classroom basically kind of an instructional strategy or blended learning, which will promote active participation as well as active involvement of learners and learning in the classroom. The ultimate aim of any teaching is to promote learner autonomy and taking learner to a next level where they can help themselves instead of depending completely on teacher. And that's the main purpose of any methodology or any technique that we use in the classroom or outside. And one such methodology I'm going to present in today's session is Flipped Learning 3.0. Yeah. So before that, before beginning the presentation, I'd like to mention the scope of the presentation. I'll be dealing with exploring the term flipped classroom, and then I'll be discussing brief background of flipped classroom and the pioneers who've introduced this wonderful concept to the field of education. Later, I'll be moving on discussing the difference between traditional classroom as well as flipped classroom. Moving forward, I'll be presenting the crux of my topic, tech tools for flipped classroom learning. And towards the end, I'll be discussing practical advantages of flipped classroom. In between, if you have any questions, kindly type in the chat box. I'll be able to answer either during the session or at the end of the session. Yeah. So why should we flip classrooms? We are living in a rapidly transforming world in almost all the fields, and the present industry is expecting or raised a bar among all the candidates to update, to upgrade, upskill their knowledge. The main purpose here is one has to meet the changing times, and education industry is not exception in this context, because we have seen robust changes in the field of education these days. And teachers are expected to be techno-savvy and integrate technology into their teaching to make the process of teaching engaging, interesting, and resourceful for students. And to fulfill these goals, requirements, expectations, the teacher has to prepare himself. As Joel sir just mentioned, the teacher has to be a continuous learner. So if the teacher has the drive, interest to learn regularly, then teachers can create a lot of difference, and teachers can also instill a sense of their own worth in students as well as people around them. So let us define the term flipped classroom. So what do you mean by flipped classroom, or how can we define it? Can we put it in one or two statements? A flipped classroom basically a reversal of existing traditional classroom method. So yeah, so what has been taking place in the classroom will be moved to the home, just like the classroom context. Teacher delivers lecture about an hour or two, and then students passively listen to the teacher. Probably few students ask questions if there are any, but not the majority, as we know it. Being classroom teachers, we have that first-hand experience. In a class of 60 or 70 in the context of engineering colleges, about 10 to 12 students respond to teachers every time. The rest of the students, about 50 or 60 members in the class, they remain passive, reticent, or away from the classroom discussions. So there are several problems with these students, right? Individual teacher usually doesn't have time to spend quality time with these 60 or 50 students in the class. This method, flipped classroom method, which has revolutionized the system of education in the recent past, will address this problem particularly. And flipped classroom is all about flipped classroom is all about attending to the needs of students who are usually shy and reticent and do not usually participate in discussions. So this is how teacher gets an opportunity to focus more on these students. This is how teacher can give personalized instruction or personalized attention to the learners who require a lot of help. As far as my experience is concerned, whatever little experience I have, usually bright students do not require a lot of assistance or help from the teachers. The ones that require help is who are usually shy and dull. In my experience, some of the students usually say me, sir, this kind of instruction will do, which means that they need limited information, but more of practice. But on the other hand, I can also see another set of students who are from rural areas who usually come after the class and talk to me saying that, sir, we need more information. So it's a kind of conflicting situation for me. Bright students say that, sir, let us limit lecture and more on practice. And the students who are from rural medium usually say that we need more information. So this is a conflicting situation I faced way back in 2015. So during that time, I got an opportunity through my friend to register a course in University of Manchester worked on flipped classroom learning 2.0. And that particular course has transformed my teaching style, methods, the way I perceive students, and the way I modify my teaching methods. So I'll be sharing my experiences as well as information on how important flipped classroom is in today's context. How this kind of method can promote asynchronous learning and equally effective both in offline as well as online contexts. Yeah. So flipped classroom basically about reversal of traditional teaching. So as I just mentioned, what do we mean by reversal of traditional teaching? So here students are exposed to new material outside the class. If you take traditional classroom context, usually teachers introduce a new topic, new idea, provide new knowledge to students. And this is what happening for a long time. But in the context of flipped classroom, teachers' lectures will be recorded and these recording files will be shared to students. So they can watch at their own free time during their free time in place and pace. And moreover, here class time can be used to do the hard work of assimilating the knowledge. So let me make a point here. Homework is something that is usually done at home in the traditional classroom point of view. But when a student attends homework, he really requires help or source of support, either from parents, peer group, or teachers. But in the context of traditional classroom, right, students do get limited support at home. Not every student gets support. Let me mute once and continue my talk. Give me just 30 seconds. Someone has shared the screen. Let me request the person so that I can show you my screen. Just a minute time. Yeah, thank you. There's a technical glitch. We fixed it. I'll continue. So what happens here is whatever is done traditionally at home will be moved to classroom. So what's the advantage of it? The problem is not every student can do homework all alone. There are bright ones who can complete homework on their own, but when it comes to other students, it's really difficult for them carrying out tasks, quizzes, homework on their own, provided they do not have any support from either peer group or parents. So in such cases, what happens, the students submit either incomplete or wrong assignments, and even teachers do have a limited time to go through each individual assignment and give personalized feedback. How to overcome this kind of situation in the context of teaching and learning? So flipped classroom is gonna answer this problem. In fact, what we do in the classroom here is class time is devoted to hard work of assimilating that knowledge. So whatever take-home assignments given to students that will be attempted in the classroom, right in front of teacher in the help of peer group. So if teacher finds certain students having a problem, teacher can go there and talk to the students, give personalized instruction. And this is very important because most of the students do not come out or rather express their doubts or problems, difficulties in the classroom. So here teacher gets an opportunity to see those students who really require teacher's help. And this is how, when this kind of style is used or employed, this kind of strategies, there is a possibility of solving problems, identifying problems through collaborative discussions, debates. And this is the reason flipped classroom has become a great success in the field of education. So what are some of the origins of flipped classroom? I quickly wrap up the origin part of flipped classroom, and then we will move on to discuss the next part of the talk. So is this a new idea? Flipping the classroom, for example, providing material students before attending classes. Is that a new idea, or it's been there quite a long time? In fact, it's been there in the field of humanities, right? I mean, here students are expected to go through the material prior to attending the session. And that's how it is not a new method. But the thing here is, it is new in the context of technology. Because now we add technical tools for this particular method to continue.
నేను అడిగాను కదా ఏం తల్లి గ్రీన్ లో పడలేదంటే నేను ఏదో ప్రైస్ లో పెట్టినాను సార్.
Yeah. And moving forward, we've got a lot of pioneers who have promoted this concept of flipped classroom. We have Jonathan Bergman and Aaron Sams, and these two individuals have popularized this particular method. And there's an interesting story how they come to know about there's something called flipped classroom method exists, and that I'll share a little later. And when they started using it, they used to make pre-recorded videos of teachers, and they used to record PowerPoint presentations, and then they usually post it to students who require help or people who miss the classes. And that's how it has started. And then this has revolutionized their schools, and then they started training other schools in USA, and now they've become pioneers. So far they've trained lakhs of teachers in flipped classroom methodologies. So what's the advantage of flipped classroom methodology? The advantage here is the flipped model puts more of the responsibility for learning on the shoulders of students while giving them greater impetus to experiment. Here there's a lot of scope for students to experiment because teachers give maximum possibility for students' talk, students' participation, their active engagement. And this is how we can bring out the best in students, and we give them space and time to express their mind. So to continue further, so these are some of the pioneers in flipped classroom. To begin with, I'd like to talk to you about a university in Turkey, which is MEF University. This is world's first flipped university, and it has successfully flipped its entire course content for the last about 8 to 10 years. And this is how it has come into limelight, and this university has become an ideal for the rest of the universities. In fact, flipped classroom method is something which is regularly followed by Western universities, especially in higher education sector. It's quite popular. Yeah. So going forward, we've got here two pioneers who have started this flipped learning global initiative, and we have another person by name Salman at Khan Academy. These three individuals are known, or these names are heard as synonymous with flipped classroom technology or flipped classroom learning. I just share a brief story about these two individuals, and then we will have an interactive discussion. So Aaron Sams and Bergman, these two are chemistry teachers working for US schools. So way back in 2007, they've got an idea, right? They've got a problem, how to address, how to help students who miss classes because of various reasons. And in their discussions, right, they've got an idea of recording their talks, especially short lectures, about 5 to 7 minutes length, because students' attention spans when it comes to video material is usually limited to 8 to 10 minutes. So a maximum of 12 to 15 minutes. And that's how they've started making short video presentations on the classes some students missed out. And they started sharing this video material, e-content to students. And within limited time, they've got very good response. And they found in the classes that these students who missed out classes and followed these flipped materials are making equal progress with the rest of the students, which means they are equally active in terms of responding to questions in the classroom and participating in classroom discussions. And this is something has become an instant success for them. And moving forward, we have Salman, who has also shared his interesting story in a TED Talk. He's mentioned that he used to give classes for his cousins. It's a kind of remote teaching online. After a few months, his cousins mentioned an interesting point to him. So they told him, we prefer your virtual presence than your physical presence. So he couldn't digest the fact that his cousins preferred only his virtual presence. Then he realized, thinking from their perspective, he understood that students, when it comes to lower order thinking skills, they do not have teachers' presence in the classroom. They can still assimilate information on their own, which means listening to a lecture, processing it, understanding it, and analyzing it, and applying it. All these are considered to be lower order thinking skills. And to deal with these skills, teachers' presence in the classroom is not really required. That's what he felt and understood. And that's the idea which motivated him to come up with a lot of videos. Today, if you can visit his site, you can find lakhs of videos on a lot of science topics. Because these, I mean, in the case of these people, ideas started from scratch, and it has become a huge success. It has become a huge success because they thought from students' perspective. In the case of Aaron Sams and Salman, both of them thought it from not their perspective, but rather their students' perspective. And this is how they've made name and fame within limited time. Now I'd like to draw your attention to this particular picture. I'd like you to go through it for about 30 seconds, and I'll be posting one link for you. So go to the link and answer the questions. There are 3 to 4 questions. All of them are multiple choice questions. You can answer them in limited time. So I'm posting it right away. Meanwhile, you can take a look at the picture, what you can see in the picture. Yeah, here you go, the link. Please click on the link and look at the questions, look at the picture, think from your perspective and answer them. So let me see how many responses we've got. Yeah. Very good. It's a traditional classroom. Ramudu sir, that's a good observation. And you can also answer the rest of the questions. There are just 3 to 4 questions. It doesn't take not more than 2 minutes time. Yeah. Yeah, very good. I've got about 40 responses. Yeah, number is going up. That's a good sign. Yeah, 63% of, I mean, about 70% of you answered it's, yeah, it's passive learning, right? In the given picture. And yeah, second question, is the teacher a facilitator here, right? Or a kind of all-knowing authority? Yeah, you answered yes, teacher is not a facilitator here, right? Yes. Does the classroom promote active engagement of students? Yeah, most of the students, right, they talk to themselves, right? They are away from teachers' attention, I mean, teachers' instructions. Yeah. Is it lecture-based or activity-based classroom kind of thing, right? Yeah, most of you mentioned it's a lecture-based method. Yeah, we'll come back. It's a teacher-centric class, passive mode, traditional type of teaching, right? Very good. Yeah, very good. A lot of responses. Thank you very much. We'll get back to the presentation right away. Right. So what about the next classroom? So here, what learning and teaching is taking place in this classroom. Here you can see you have teacher is seen as disseminator of knowledge, all-knowing authority, primary source of knowledge, and students passively, right, follow the teacher, right? This is what we can find from the chat box. Traditional type of teaching, and what learning and teaching is taking place after they leave the classroom. So both are important. What is learned inside the classroom and what is learned outside the classroom. If we can manage both, if we can balance both, right, that leads to a good teaching and learning process. So there's a lot of difference between these two, right, classroom styles. Here you have a lot of space, technological tools, and the teacher is not seen as a primary source of knowledge, though you do not see any people here, right? The ambience clearly mentions that. So what are some of the problems with traditional classroom? So some of you answered well, the kind of problems people have in traditional classrooms. Let us quickly wrap up before we move on to tech tools to be used in flipped classroom. The first problem here is, it's basically the shifted classroom. So teacher-centered traditional classrooms, which was full of mismatches. So what are some of those mismatches? Yeah, the presence of teacher is always there when it comes to giving new information to students, right? And you can also see the presence of teacher when it comes to, right, answering questions. But the question is, how many of the students come up with the questions genuinely, right? Yeah, and there's another important role where teacher is supposed to be there, and let us see if it is possible for the teacher to be there in the traditional classroom setting. Homework. Homework is the most important thing because homework involves higher order thinking skills, analyzing, evaluating, right, creating, designing. All these are involved in, right, take-home assignments. And the student really requires help in this particular context. But in the case of traditional classroom, mostly we don't find teacher support for learners at home. Though some students out of interest contact teachers, right, over phone and mail, but that's not the case with all the students. So this is the reason we need a real shift or a complete shift from traditional classroom. Yeah, traditional classroom style. The teacher is seen as disseminator of knowledge, right, primary source of knowledge, right, and the students also get accustomed that teacher is the only person who can give them knowledge. Though the time has changed, students started, right, researching on their own on various topics, but this kind of research-oriented skills should be developed in all the students. And for that, teacher has to encourage students, give the students a lot of space in classroom discussions and give them maximum help to motivate them to develop independent thinking, autonomy, right, for their own learning purpose. And using flipped classroom, we can always do that. Yeah, it seems my screen is frozen. I shared the screen. Give me just 2 seconds time. Thank you.
Stop sharing.
Yes. Can you see my screen? Yeah, thank you. Well, so most of the traditional classrooms we find there is a kind of lecture method, teacher, right, lectures about an hour or two. It's a kind of a kind of environment where students get limited opportunity to interact with teacher. Rather, teacher takes over everything because teacher controls both information flow and what to be discussed and how to be discussed. Everything is in the hands of teacher. So this is how the role of learner is limited, right? And in fact, teacher is someone who stands between students and knowledge. In fact, the role of a modern teacher should be, he should facilitate knowledge to students and provide them multiple opportunities, multiple ways where students can acquire knowledge. Because in today's world, students are to be told and trained. Teacher is not the only resource for them to explore information, because a lot of information out there they can do on their own, apart from, right, information provided by the teacher. This is how one can prepare students for independent thinking, autonomy, and scope for their own learning. So this is another problem in traditional classroom setup. Classroom discussions and flow of information are completely controlled by, right, teachers. And to avoid this, to overcome this, we need to flip our classrooms as early as possible. I hope many of you have already flipped the classrooms, right? Those who are in between, fall in between, can really try out. It's a very good method, experimental method. You can get wonderful results. What's the pupil's role, especially in the context of a traditional classroom? Right? There are some students who could ask questions and clarify information. Very few students defer with teachers' feedback, and then they just listen to what teacher says. Right? That's the final, and they don't explore the topic further. So this is what the case of majority of the students, but not all. But there are students in our class who can disagree with us and who can, right, argue at times whenever the concept is not clear, or if they think there is an alternative way to solve a problem, there's an alternative method to do something, they always come up with new ideas. As long as teacher allows students to speak, they come up with very creative ideas, sometimes right mind-blowing ideas, and that you can find, especially in group discussions, right, open mic events. Whenever we conduct, we really get surprised to see the kind of ideas these young people have. So this is the reason why we need to encourage them on a regular basis, and that's possible only through changing methods, changing techniques. And one such technique, method you can use is the classroom. So in traditional classroom setup, student engagement is just limited to individual work, small group work, and tasks assigned by teacher. But to go beyond this, we really need a shift. So this particular slide will help you understanding the clear difference between flipped classroom as well as the old traditional classroom method. Going forward, on the top left side, you can see a student with our materials, right? Sometimes this happens in traditional classroom method. Some students do prepare before attending classes. In the class, they listen to the lecture, right? Whatever is told by teacher. Mostly it is a passive kind of atmosphere where they listen to teacher and very rarely they question teacher, right? And going back home, they attempt homework all alone. And this is the problem, right? This is the main problem that students face. If they get it right, if they're able to follow teacher, right, ultimately, right, they get succeeded. Otherwise, it's a problem. In this context, I'd like to bring another problem here. One size doesn't fit all. Do you agree or not? Being teachers, being teachers working in various colleges, we cannot fit into one training program because our individual needs, problems where we work are different, right? As long as a trainer doesn't analyze individual teacher problems, his or her training cannot be specific. It's a generalized training. So is the case with classroom. In a classroom of 70, you will have 10 to 15 active students, around 30 to 40 students who fall in between of a dull as well as active. So 1 hour lecture for all, I don't think it's going to meet the requirements of students. Some students process very slow, they need more time, right? And some students process very quick, they need no time at all. So how do we manage both the cases? This is going to be a common problem for many teachers, right, across India or across the world. So flipped classroom has an answer for this, right? Long-standing question. So moving forward, on the top right corner, you can see after the class. After the class, what happens here is students complete interactive, right, assignments, modules sent by teacher online. So they see the teacher in the form of video, right? In between, teacher will give some questions, they'll answer. If they don't understand it, they can rewind, right? Watch it n number of times they want. This is an opportunity, right? Flipped classroom provides for all the learners. And this is how you can ensure that every learner can learn at their own pace. Just because the learner is slow, just because the learner doesn't understand in first go, doesn't mean that the learner doesn't have any capability, right? The student learn at different, pace. So being teacher, we should understand that and provide them as many opportunities as possible for their active involvement and engagement with the course content. And that's the primary role of teacher in this flipped classroom method. Moving forward, especially in classroom, students practice applying key concepts along with the peer group, and they also have help of teachers in the form of feedback. So teachers can create groups, pairs in the class, and teacher can assign these take-home assignments or quizzes to them, and teacher can monitor student groups. And being teacher, for us, it is very easy to identify those students who have problems, those students who are unable to follow, or those students who really require help. So teacher can go there and give personalized instruction to those learners who really require help. That's the ultimate aim of any teaching, because being teacher, our only focus is on learners and learning styles. If we can fill the gap, we can create wonders, miracles in classroom. And flipped classroom is something that allows you to a great extent, that gives a lot of freedom for teachers as well as students. When we post information beforehand, learners get an opportunity to go through the post content. They come prepared to the class, they are confident, they participate, they actively engage in the post content. They'll be able to give 1 minute, 2 minute presentations within the class. Moving forward, my own experience being an English teacher, I used flipped classroom method several times. I flipped many sessions in my advanced English communication skills lab. I usually send information and professional presentations to students at least 3 days before my actual lab schedule. They go through the pre-recorded videos, learning materials, e-content, they come back to the class. So when they are back to the class, everyone is prepared, everyone is eager to present, because they expect what is going to be dealt in the classroom and how it is going to be dealt. Since they've already watched videos, go through the went through the content, send some assignments to me or online, I could easily see their progress. I can only see those students who could not do well or who could not understand concepts. So my focus will be shifted to them. I can give them feedback online as well as offline personally. And this is how it allows, a lot of possibilities for teachers. So this is the major difference between flipped classroom and regular traditional classroom. So what exactly we do in flipped learning or flipped classroom atmosphere? So as mentioned, it's a kind of instructional strategy or a blended learning. So can you please tell me, do you think blended learning and flipped learning, both of them, are the same or different? If you think they are same, just type same. Or if you think it's different, type different in the chat box quickly. My question is, do you think blended learning and flipped learning are the same or they are different concepts? Very good, excellent, wonderful. Different. Blended learning gives an opportunity for teachers to combine both methods, You can use traditional method like face-to-face teaching and online teaching. Whereas flipped classroom, flipped learning method, you can only use online teaching. You can flip your regular classroom methods and regular classroom teaching into videos and then send to students. So this is how flipped classroom is one form of blended learning, and blended learning is altogether, it combines two methods, Yeah. And flipped classroom allows students to consume lecture time, So they can watch lecture at their own pace, place, time, and comfort zone. So by providing comfort zone to students, to watch and rewind lectures, we will give them more opportunities for learning, and that's how their confidence will always be increased. Yeah, how do we do that? Teachers can do it by sharing edutech videos. They can use content delivery. A lot of technical tools are available online. I'm going to present those tools a little later in 5 minutes time. In yesterday's presentation, we have seen a lot of tools, Web 2.0, the kind of tools that can be used to talk to students, to share our own videos, to share feedback, to give instant help, or to give instant feedback to students. And I'll be presenting certain tools which can be used in the context of flipped learning. So this is how students can get engaged with the teachers, and they work along with the teacher in concept building. So what matters here is building knowledge together. That's very important. And that's how you can ensure active learning, active participation of learners. So in flipped method, it engages students online to prepare them for active learning. So you can make sure that the kind of videos you send, material you share, that are relevant to the talk that you're going to give. This is how you can ensure that students come prepared, and they'll be able to share information, answer your questions, come up with immediate answers to your quizzes or whatever we do it in a classroom. And this is a wonderful opportunity for students to apply new knowledge using instructor as a resource. In passive classroom, rather in traditional classroom, students attempt all alone, but here in the presence of instructor, they try to create new knowledge. And this is how, right, a lot of difference takes place in both the settings. Class time explores topics at greater depth. That's always possible because using group work, pair work, right, individualized work, we can bring out the best in students. And again, teacher presence is always there to help whenever it is required, if not continuously monitoring them. So what sort of activities we can do in the classroom? Because it's altogether a new setting for us, what sort of activities can be planned? We can plan discussions, debates, presentations, demonstrations, role plays, peer group discussions, right? We can also have question and answer sessions, right? All these are some of the activities that we can plan in the class. And this is how we can engage them actively in the process of learning. Because lecturing continuously for about 1 hour, always, right, people do not have the attention span. So making activities in the classroom will always ensure active involvement of students. This is the reason ABL, activity-based teaching, has become quite popular these days. So this is a quick look to understand the difference between traditional as well as flipped classroom. I just go through a few because most of it we've already covered. Yeah, feedback, which is very important aspect in teaching. So in the context of traditional teaching, it's very slow and not tailored, which means, right, giving individualized feedback to students is not possible, especially in the classroom context because the time is limited. Teacher cannot be blamed for this reason. Every teacher has 60 minutes and syllabus has to be covered because deadlines and other things, there are a lot of pressures working on teacher's mind. To overcome this, teacher has to flip, right, his own teaching so that he can give immediate and instant feedback effectively. And teacher talk time is medium to high in traditional classroom. Flipped, it is very low, right? And content mastery is low because all learners cannot learn at the same pace. But whereas in the context of flipped learning, it is very high, right? Faster. Now, so as told, it's a kind of blended learning and reverses traditional format of initial content delivery in class. And this is how we can ensure higher order applications, exploration of concepts, right, in the classroom. So people feel confident and then they go on sharing information. So we see this interesting point here. By flipping your class, you can ensure this. Teacher becomes a guide on the site, not sage on the stage. The first picture that we have seen there, right? Teacher is seen as sage on the stage because he seems to be on a higher platform, right? Students are somewhere there, right? It clearly shows that there's a distance between teacher and student. And to bridge the distance, right, flipped classroom is, right, another alternative for you. And this is how teacher can become a guide by student's side instead of sage on the stage somewhere. Yeah, can you quickly tell me what are higher order skills and what are lower order thinking skills? First, type only lots, lower order thinking skills in the chat box. There are 6 aspects mentioned here. Can you please quickly type lower order thinking skills, which do not really require teacher's help. Teacher's virtual presence can ensure this. So lower order thinking skills, yes, most of you mentioned knowledge, understanding, application, yeah, knowledge, understanding, very good. Because if you see the bottom part of the pyramid, knowledge, understanding, application, these things students can learn on their own without depending completely on the teacher. They can research information, they can listen to online lectures, they can listen to relevant talks, they can still, right, assimilate knowledge, understand concepts. And they'll be able to apply this when they do a lot of right, tasks given to them. Yeah, moving forward, the top 3 aspects, analysis, evaluation, creation, are part of, right, higher order thinking skills, and students always need help of teachers, especially when it comes to these 3, right, aspects. Yeah, flipped classroom always promotes HOTS. So HOTS, lot to HOTS is a shift. It's a kind of journey, right? Lots to odds, lower order thinking skills to higher order thinking skills. So this is how in the classroom we attend tasks related to problem solving, collaboration, design, right? A lot of activities taking place, especially promoting higher order thinking skills. So this is how the teacher can ensure that he can construct knowledge, right, along with the learners. It's a shift to learner-centric teaching. We've discussed, some of you mentioned that it's a teacher-centered classroom, first picture. So this is an opportunity to transform teacher-centered into learner-centered classrooms. And this is where teachers get opportunity to give personalized instruction, which is less didactic. Right? When you give personalized instruction, right, students feel respected, students feel happy to interact with you, and they can create that kind of space to discuss with the teachers. They feel at home, and this is the kind of atmosphere we should be creating, right? And even being a language teacher, I always feel that keeping students right at ease will always help to give to express their minds properly. So this is how we can evaluate learners' progress and facilitate whatever best we can. So there will be more focus on slow learners, as I mentioned earlier, which is not possible in traditional classroom because of the constraint that we have there. And another question is, can you flip all the classes, or can you flip only few classes when it comes to flipped learning method? If you can flip all, you can type all. If you can flip only few, you can type few. It's purely individualistic question. It depends on the subject you deal with, depending on the context you are in, the kind of students you have, place where you are working, right? Yeah, metro is always different from rural areas. Being a teacher, you always know it well. Very good. Not all classes cannot be flipped because of the reasons, the kind of subject we deal with. But definitely, yes, depending on the topic, right? Depending on the context, you can always flip few classes. Thank you. Yeah, so traditional model and flipped model. So students are responsible for homework in these levels of understanding, creation, evaluation, and analysis. And besides that, students and teachers work together during the school day on these levels of learning. This is a rare opportunity for students to work along with the teachers to solve, clarify, right, doubts. And this is how we can ensure students' participation and students' involvement. In the lower part of the pyramid, we have application, understanding, knowledge. Teacher introduces new material to students. All these are the ones that students can take care of themselves. New matter is introduced to students outside of their class, right? As homework. Yeah. So this is what the essence of Bloom's taxonomy. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. So if you actively engage students, when they do on their own, they learn a lot. As long as they listen to someone, they don't have first-hand experience. So if you let them engage in the form of learning, in the process of learning, then they understand it better. So this is why we need to engage students. And this is the reason why we need to create our classroom into activity-based classroom. Because this particular slide will explain about how important it is, right? Making learners doing their own work. So the pyramid clearly explains participatory and passive teaching methods. Lecture-based, reading, audio-visual, right? Demonstration, discuss, practice by doing. So we should give time and space for students to practice doing on their own instead of, right, giving them complete support. So this is how students' motivation, attention span, attention levels, right, remain. So hope you can clearly see and understand it. Since we've already dealt with it, I'm not going to going into details again, but I wanted to bring it to your notice. Yeah, it's time for rapid fire before I move on to my next session where I can introduce tech tools. I'll be sharing one form. You can quickly respond on the chat box. this is what we've been discussing for the last few minutes. So it's a kind of a recap of what we've been doing. Just a minute, I post my link here.
हाँ मुझे मालूम था इससे मैंने सबको डाला सर
Yeah, let me share my screen again. Well, yes, right. You can be a good teacher without using technology, and technology won't turn a bad teacher into a good one. However, a good teacher who uses technology can become great things happen. Yeah. Yeah. Now let me introduce the tech tools of Flip Classroom. Right. Yeah, here we go. 8 simple steps to the Flip Classroom. So how to flip your classroom? The first one is you have to choose a tech tool. Number 2 is create your own video. Third one is in building your own lesson. And fourth one, generate assessment. This is very important to understand how far our course, right, fulfills learners' requirements. Assign to a class and then take a step back, wait and let them allow to do it. And track student progress online if possible. Provide feedback. And this is how we can ensure that we can flip our classroom conveniently, right? And before that, students ought to be informed the kind of tech tools you use and LMS that your college or school supports. Keeping all this in view, we can create the classroom effectively. Though in the beginning you face certain problems with technology and motivating students to adopt this method, right? But all in all, right, we can make a difference in students' life. Yeah, technology of flipped classroom. So using these 4 methods, we can flip classroom. We can design our own e-content video materials to students. First tool is video creation. Second tool is video hosting, and third one is video interaction, and the last one is learning management system. So the first one, video creation tools. There are a lot of video creation tools. I'm going to show you something very interesting, simple, a layman can understand. When I can understand, I hope you can do it as well. One of the common tools that are used for screencasting is Screencast-O-Matic, that is one. And yet another one that you can find out is, there is Edumando is another interesting tool that you can use. I'll be showing this. Yeah, I'll be playing a video so that you understand how it can be, right? How teaching can be integrated using this particular tool. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. Yeah, that's about Screencast-O-Matic, and that's an interesting tool which can be used by anyone. It allows you to record up to 10 to 12 minutes video recording. It provides a lot of options for you. You can just share your screen without having your image. You can show both your image as well as screen, and it's both. So this is how we can start recording short videos. And short videos are essential because they can retain attention span of students. And what are other tools that are available? I just show you a list of tools. I'm not going into details, but you can experiment with these tools. They're all cool tools. One can easily, experiment with oneself during free time. I think this is the right time for teachers to experiment, and I hope a lot of teachers learn more about technical tools, since this has given us a lot of opportunities to reflect, think, and learn. So these are some of the cool tools available for video creations, and there are so many others, but these are some of the ones which can support flipped learning. Moving forward, video hosting, which is very important. Once you make your video, you have to host it, and you have few other tools where you can host this comfortably. So once the video is created, you have to place in a particular place where that can be viewed by many people. One of the common sources, YouTube. We can create an account in YouTube and upload our videos to get reviews and comments from others. But mostly schools do not allow YouTube because of inappropriate content for children and students. So there is another interesting addition, TeacherTube. TeacherTube is considered to be the best option for teachers to upload their videos, though it's not as popular as YouTube, but in academic circles, most of them know about TeacherTube. The site has a free as well as paid version, but in our case, for our purpose, I think we can use the version. Acclaim is another cool tool where you can make your own videos, just like what we have done in screencasting, right? Like Zoom. These are all different platforms where we can create our own videos and then we upload in our Google Drive and then share the link to others. This is simplest way of sharing link of your own video. And Google Drive gives you a lot of opportunities, right, to create your own Google Forms, right? Load your videos, share it. It opens up to a lot of opportunities. And in fact, for our FDP, we have completely depended on Google Drive for creating Google Forms, inviting others, taking feedback, providing links, and generating certificates. We are completely on Google Drive. That shows the kind of support these tools are giving to teachers. It makes our job very easy. We never went to any publisher or printer to provide us a lot of other things. We are able to do on our own. If you spend time, at least an hour a day for technology purpose, you can master it. And the last part of the video, towards the last part, I'll be discussing with video hosting. We need learning management tools to host video. Most of the schools have LMS where they can provide information to students, where they can check their homework, watch videos, send back their assignments. Yeah. So LMS provides a lot of opportunities. You can provide comment threads, quizzes, and a lot of other things. There is a possibility of game-based learning, and it helps teachers as well as administrators, including students, for various purposes. And there are hundreds of LMS tools. I'll be presenting briefly what you can conveniently use. And most of the tools I'm going to present, I think some of your children, some of you, some of your colleges are already using it. So here you have, these are video interaction tools, and this will help you to modify your videos. For example, you can create a video where you can pause it and give a question to students, and then you can continue video, give a pause, and ask 2 questions. And each time student answers, you will get a response, right? You can get the feedback. Immediately with a click of the mouse, you can give instant feedback to students. And this is another interesting aspect of flipped learning, video interaction tools. Here you can edit your own video, and it's very simple doing that online, and you can do that. Here you have a link, and using Educana, you can do wonderful things. Since the time is limited, I've got a reminder. So I'll be presenting you the tools, sharing the documents. You can do it for yourself. So these are other cool tools available for video interaction tools. We can edit our own video, we can put images, we can play background music. A lot of things can be done, right? And they allow up to 10 minutes. You can comfortably design your own lessons, e-lessons online, and make real difference with your students. So these are LMS platforms. A lot of platforms are available, but some of the popular ones are mentioned here. So using these, we will definitely, right, make flipped learning a wonderful, right, method to bring a lot of change among students. We can improve our own, right? I mean, we can provide more scope for personal and professional development. Since this is a digital age, teachers are expected to be techno-savvy, and using all these tools, we can become techno-savvy. We can use technology, integrate technology into teaching for effective teaching and learning purposes. Towards the end, I'd like to say this. I'm sorry, I had to wrap it up because I've exceeded time. That's what got a reminder. So teaching in a flipped mastery model is tiring. And our minds have to constantly switch between one topic and the next, and from one activity to another. Because we keep experimenting in the class, if one activity doesn't work, you have to modify it, choose another, right? And make it more tailored to students' needs. Flipped classroom is about mindset. If you have a growth mindset, if you are able to accept change, then yeah, we can create change in the field of education as well. So the main purpose here is redirecting attention from the teacher to providing attention on the learners. So with these few words, I'd like to conclude my presentation. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, kindly post on the chat box. If you have any suggestions, please mention them. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Krishna Chaitanya. That was a very well presented talk. It was also interesting to hear you explain the topic in an interactive way. Dr. Krishna Chaitanya started with defining flipped classroom in Web 3.0. Why he talked about why we should flip classroom and about the global changes in education. He talked about traditional classrooms and the role played by teachers as facilitators as against the giver of knowledge in traditional classrooms. He illustrated the topic with several anecdotes, and I love the spirit and enthusiasm with which he presented. He also provided some demonstrations on the use of Web 3.0 tools like screencast, and he mentioned the various platforms to post videos. There was YouTube and LMS platforms. I think he did a wonderful job. I personally found the talk to be highly informative. I'm sure it also had a lot of take-home value. Thank you, Chaitanya, for that talk. Now I open the session to questions. Please type your questions in the chat and I'll be able to ask them to Chaitanya. Okay, there is a question, Chaitanya, from
Yes,
Meenakshi.
my name is Shivam. I want to ask a question.
Okay, yeah. Please do.
Yeah, actually, I have two questions. One.
Can you please unmute and talk? I'm not able to hear anything. Or can you please type? That helps. Otherwise.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sir, you shared very good tools. I was waiting for all of them. Now the only question is, like, I use Screencast-O-Matic for creating video, but it works only in laptop. So do you have some tools which can work on mobile phone as well?
Yeah, some of those
First
tools
question,
that
and I have one more
presented.
question.
Yeah.
The second
Please.
question is like whether the student has watched that video or not. So is there a LMS or any platform through which we can understand that he has watched for 10 seconds or 30 seconds, or he just clicked on the video and he just stopped?
Yeah, can you see my
Thank
screen,
you,
sir? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes.
This one, Educanon, fulfills all your requirements. This has an opportunity. When you have an opportunity using this, you can pause your video, post a question, and continue the video, and then post 2 or 3 questions. At the end of 5 to 10 minute video, you can ask 7 to 8 questions, and each time the student answers a question, right, you will get a response. So this is very user friendly, and you can give instant feedback. So this is something you can make use of in your teaching. You can try it out. I have provided a link here. Watch it. It's very user friendly, and it fulfills all your requirements. And your
Okay,
first
thank
question.
you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Let me move to another slide. Yeah. Here I explain Screenomatic because I don't have time to deal with others, but most of these tools support mobile phones. Around 2 to 3 tools, right? Yeah, you can try them out during your free time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chaitanya. There is one question from Meenakshi. How does everyone get equal opportunity in flipped classrooms? Like, for example, those who are uninterested, she asks.
Yeah. That's true, ma'am. There are problems in flipped classroom methodology as well. Like probably students have technical problems. They are not well versed with technology, so sometimes they don't follow what we create and share it with them. And we should be prepared that students come without preparation to the classroom. All these are some practical difficulties that we face in the flipped classroom methods. And equal opportunity, yeah, it purely depends on if students can follow whatever guidelines we give it to them. In local context, if you see, especially in rural areas, they may not have technical devices to get access to the key content that we share. But in such cases, we cannot ensure equal participation. But using some of these tools, you can at least know how many of them are doing your activity or responding to your videos, answering questions. You can make that. I mentioned very clearly in the beginning of my talk, there are certain practical problems for every method. In this context, you can try out another method. That's the theme of the FDP for that matter.
There is one question from S. Archana. And she asks, if in flipped classroom teaching, will learning happen by students on their own, and will it be productive?
It purely depends on the kind of motivation students have. We provide a lot of motivation because the point here is in a 50-minute classroom lecture, not every student follows with the teacher's pace. So this is meant for those students who are a bit slow when it comes to other students, and it really helps them. And if that they learn it or not purely depends on those learners. If they are really interested, but they are unable to follow teacher's pace, in that context, it fills the gap. If the student is not interested in studies, irrespective of the kind of methods, techniques teachers use, it happens in some students' cases. So in that case, I think we should take up personal counseling. That would fill the gap.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Chaitanya. Any other questions from our participants?
Chaitanya sir, this is Pawan from SRK Indian College. I have a small question, sir. What is the minimum ideal strength for conducting a flipped classroom?
This is not specifically meant for number of students in a class or the subject that we handle. Flipped classroom method can be used across all the disciplines and across all the levels and irrespective of the number in the class. Most of our Indian classrooms are heterogeneous. We have at least 60 to 70 students in each class. That's a large number. To accommodate all of them, you can use this, because Phenomatic is something that will help you understanding how many students have done this task and how many of them were able to do it correctly. And you can share your feedback to specific students who have done something wrong when it comes to a few questions. You can give specific feedback to those questions and give an instruction how they can improve. And this is how you can ensure that most of your students will be able to understand what you're trying to mention or trying to say. It doesn't deal about number, whether it is small classroom or big classroom. What matters here is how effectively we can design and share it to students and take their feedback and modify content whenever required.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, Chaitanya, if I can.
Okay. Any other questions?
Madam
Please.
Meenakshi, ma'am.
Please.
Good afternoon.
Very good afternoon. This with reference to Shivam Jam's question, the earlier question, if I may give some inputs to him. Thing is, you in flipped classroom, what the concept Chaitanya sir was dealing with, your question was, I have given a video, how long did my student watch it? Okay. The platform that best does is Canvas network, okay, wherein you embed the whole course in it. You put a video. Once you watch, only then you can answer the question. So if you can plan, you don't need a platform. You place, even on Google Form you can do, place a video and put questions under that, and that you make it form of you make it formative assessment. Then by default they will do it, isn't it? You don't need a specific platform for that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your input.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Any other questions from our participants?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Please.
Thank you, ma'am. Firstly, before asking question, I would like to appreciate Dr. Chaitanya for, I think his presentation was very well articulated and lucid, and I think he has added an requisite amount of a knowledge to our prerequisite knowledge about flipped classroom. Hello.
Thank you. Yeah, please continue.
Yes.
Sir.
Please go on. We can hear you.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you are, sir. Please go on.
Yeah. So my question to you is, suppose you are having a class, I'm talking about when you are practically employing flipped classroom technique in the class. Okay, and you have a class of low achievers. How viable option is flipped classroom to be used then?
Yeah. When you mean low achievers.
Sorry.
Continue. I interrupted.
No. I was asking is that how viable is using flipped classroom, because I have gone through this experience during my practice teaching. So I think students are not motivated because they do not have that particular ability. When you ask them to engage in discussion,
sure, sir.
Maybe
Yes.
it might be due to lack of knowledge or poor communication. So in such case, do you think flipped classroom is a viable option?
Yeah, in such local conditions, we need to change the method. One aspect I can tell you, if students are low achievers, they do not follow teachers' content at teachers' pace and not interested in learning, then we can go with personalized counseling, telling them importance of the education, and then providing information bits. I mean to say, 3 to 4 minute video on each lecture that you're going to present, which will retain their attention span and they at least understand the crux of the topic. But that takes time, and we cannot bring change immediately. It doesn't happen in a day or two, but continuous motivation during offline sessions and providing relevant content, motivating content, online sessions. These two will go in a long way to bring change in students' attitude and abilities. That's what whatever limited knowledge I have about it. Had I been in your place, I would do this. I would have done this.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, any more questions?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Ma'am, this
Yes,
is Dr.
please.
Dr. Geeta from Mufakamja College. I congratulate
Yes,
sir
Geeta,
for this
please.
wonderful session. I just had a small doubt among the apps that sir has mentioned. How many of them are mobile friendly? Because not many of them will have desktop or laptop facility. How many
Yeah.
apps would be more, mobile friendly?
Most of them are laptop friendly, and 2 or 3 in each category to go by. Let me present. Here you have on video creation tools. Most of them support laptops because in mobiles, only in high-end mobiles you have these Adobe Presenter and edit creations will work, but most of them are laptop friendly because our mobiles, most of them do not support these software. So that's one problem, unless one one has an Apple advanced version, and that's a practical problem. Going forward, you have another list here.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, only 2 of them are mobile friendly here: TechSmith Relay and Co-convener.
Yes. If there are no more questions, we'd like to wind up the event. Yeah, I'd like to. Yes, Dr. Chaitanya, are we having our principal join us today?
I have a word. I will have a word with him and let you know immediately.
Yes, Chaitanya.
I have a word with principal and get back to you in a minute.
Yeah. Yes, please. Please. Yeah. Any observations? Anything you want to add? The participants, you are welcome.
Yeah, may I ask one more question if you don't mind?
Yes, but the speaker is busy right now. If you have an observation to make, or if someone else is able to answer it, you are most welcome. Please
Sure.
go ahead.
Okay. All right. So a flipped classroom is a kind of blended learning, or blended learning and flipped classroom both are different. Because at the end of this presentation, it was mentioned it is a kind of blended learning, but in the beginning it was said that it is different. So blended means mix up of 2 things.
Both,
right? And the
of the
same thing
traditional
happens in
method
flipped.
and
So
technology. Yes, blended
no,
obviously is a
I'm asking
mix.
about. It is the mix up of 2 things, right? So flipped classroom is a blended learning, or blended and flipped both are different.
Ma'am, can I answer this?
Please do. Please do.
Yeah. So good afternoon. Actually, it is flipped learning is a form of blended learning, but it is not totally a blended learning. See, in flipped learning also, an instructor is most important for the students. But in the traditional learning or in the blended learning, we are a part of the classroom. But in the flipped learning, we are not a part of the classroom. We take it through online and we check all the responses of the students through online itself. I can say that the flipped learning is not, it is a form of blended learning, but not totally a blended learning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you, ma'am.
I mentioned the same in the presentation.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.
Principal is busy in some other engagement in the college. I think we will proceed.
Yeah, that is unfortunate that we hope to have our principal join us now for the vote of thanks, but I'm afraid he seems to be occupied. I take upon myself one of the important and pleasant tasks of proposing the vote of thanks. We would not be here without our institution's generosity in granting us the permission to organize this FDP. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank the management and principal of Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Technology for giving us this opportunity to gather for this faculty development program. I also wish to express my gratitude to Professor Ramanamurthy, the head of the Department of Humanities and Mathematics and Humanities, for his patience and his address. I would then like to start with our first resource person on day one. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Mr. Kiran Chandar for his explanation of several aspects of language and teaching in his lecture. His take on teacher lingo was so true to life, it was almost entertaining. He gave a lot of real world examples and classroom situations. He also talked about accent neutralization and tips and suggestions to overcome them. Thank you very much, Mr. Kiran Chandar, for not just your lecture, but for being a support in several ways. As teachers, the use of Web 2.0 tools is transforming our work. As educational institutions at all levels bring more technology into their classrooms, teachers will in turn need to strive to put them to best use. Session 2 on day 1 was a hands-on session by Mr. Sashidhar. He left no tool undiscussed and gave us a virtual hands-on experience with all the Web 2.0 tools ranging from Flipgrid to Spinner Wheel, used to teach curriculum content, store data, create and edit videos, photos, collaborate, and so much more. Thank you, Shashidhar, for making it convenient to join us from there. Yeah. Our first speaker today, day 2, tried to get the participants involved by making a discussion, making it a discussion. There were thought-provoking questions which made us all think about how the world has changed, and we got to hear so many perspectives from our participants. There were mixed views on that, with some saying the world had changed for better, though we still talk of the good old days. Change is painful, but then nothing is as painful as staying stuck somewhere you don't belong. Thank you very much, Joel, for accepting our invitation. Our second speaker today, I have to thank him for, for the session that he just gave us. We just spoke about it. Thank you very much, Chaitanya, for your most informative session. I would also like to extend special thanks to Mr. Surendra, our computer operator, for all the help extended by him. And thank you to all the participants. Thank you to all the participants for evincing so much interest and, being here with us these 2 days. On filling the feedback forms, you will receive your certificates. I will close by saying strong academic citizenship combined with good governance will help secure the academic freedom we need to teach. And when we continue to secure this freedom, we create for our students an atmosphere of broad intellectual inquiry. And we set the standards for an excellent education. I, along with Chaitanya, would like to thank everyone who helped make this event a reality. I wish everyone a good academic year.
Also, thank
definitely
JP,
better than what. Yeah,
JP
special
from Civil
thanks
Department.
to JP sir, Jayaprakash Narayan sir from the Civil Department of Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Technology. He extended a lot of help in several ways to us. Thank you very much, sir. And finally, I wish everyone a good academic year, better than what 2019-20 was. Goodbye, everybody. Hope we meet again. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chaitanya ji, hello, hello.
Hello, Dr. Chaitanya. Hello. Hello, sir. Is the session over?
This conference will now be recorded.